I should have walked away. I knew it the second the transfer cleared. The second that final 2 million landed in the wallet. That was the line. That's where I went too far. The 28 mil? That was clean, tight, untraceable, but greed's a hell of a pill, and I thought I could squeeze one last drop out of the system. Big mistake. That last account had a stink to it the moment I cracked it open. Should have listened to my gut. Should have shut it down and walked. Now I've got shadows trailing me. They think I'm still in the dark, but I can feel their breath on the back of my neck. I popped a flash drive into the terminal and whispered under my breath, "All right, this better help," as I launched a scrubber script to clean the last trail off the grid. My hands were steady, but my chest was tight, like something heavy was sitting on it. Time was running out. But I wasn't exactly unarmed. I'd spent years planning for this kind of fallout. Digital dead ends, burner routes, throwaway passports. Everything I needed to ghost out if things went sideways. And now, they were damn near vertical. You're probably asking, who the hell are you? Doesn't matter. That name you'd find on a license? That guy's done. Erased. 2 hours from now, I'll be somebody else with a fresh ID, a new face on the internet, and no past to track. The hounds chasing me will hit a hard wall and find nothing but echoes and smoke. What I am, though, that's the real story. I'm a hacker, a damn good one. Not some forum kid or wannabe script jockey. I've walked through firewalls like mist, ripped secrets out of bank vaults halfway across the planet from a couch in my parents' basement. But that's just the surface. I'm more than a tech wizard. I'm a one-man war machine, and I've got a personal hit list. I hunt cartels. I spy on their communications, strip down their finances, expose their rats and moles, and send it all, neatly packaged and anonymously, to the feds, the DEA, Interpol, whoever can do the most damage. And it worked. Big time. Over the past 5 years, I've had my digital fingerprints on the downfall of at least 4 government officials, over 50 crooked cops, and more dirty military officers than I can count. Some of them are still rotting in jail. Others, let's just say their retirement came early and unexpected. Along the way, I skimmed cash. A lot of it. We're talking over 100 million moved in silence. I kept my cut. Sure, you think I'm out here doing charity work for free. But I sent more than 80% to real causes. Rehab clinics, safe houses, outreach programs for dependent people. Why? My sister. She was everything. After our folks died, it was just the 2 of us. I tried to hold her down, keep her safe. But she met this guy. Smooth talker, full of promises, dead inside. Dealer, cartel foot soldier. I knew it the second I laid eyes on him. Tried to warn her. She didn't listen. I came home one night to an empty house. Her phone was dead. Cops didn't care. Just another runaway to them. 3 days later, what was left of her showed up in a ditch 20 miles out of town. She'd been tortured, dumped like trash. I snapped. Locked myself in the basement of our old house and stayed there for damn near 2 years. Didn't care about the world. Didn't eat right. Didn't speak to anyone, just me, a monitor, and a mission. I became obsessed, learned everything I could, tore apart networks, coded till my fingers cramped. I became a ghost. I became feared. One day I passed along a file to a contact at the DEA. Just a drop, just a little nudge. It was about the gang that eliminated my sister. Turns out they were secretly feeding info to the feds in exchange for protection. Funny thing, cartels don't like snitches. By the time law enforcement responded, rival crews had already taken care of it. Messy, brutal, final. Government saved millions in court fees. I kept going. Then came the big job, the one that really pissed them off. 30 million vanished from cartel reserves. Clean, fast. But I couldn't resist that last account. That's when everything changed. It was bait, wrapped in layers of false data and embedded with a stealth trace. When I moved the money, my defenses lit up like Vegas. The trace didn't find me, not yet, but it started the countdown. They're coming now. Not law enforcement, professionals, butchers. So I vanished. Burned everything. Torched the building I lived in. On paper, it was an accident. Some vagrant set a fire that got out of control. Convenient. My equipment? Already gone. Scattered ashes in the desert. ID, storage devices, photos, nothing survived. I drove west, no GPS, just a paper map and time to think. 4 days later, I hit Vegas. Fast forward 5 years later. "Hey babe, you mind helping me again? The laptop's acting possessed." I leaned back in the chair, grinning up at Linda like a clueless idiot. She came around the corner, ponytail bouncing, laughing. For a grown-A man, you're hopeless with tech. Seriously, Mark, how did you survive before I came along? She gave me a kiss on the head, typed a few commands, and boom, my inbox popped back to life. Dinner in 30, all right? You're a lifesaver, I said, watching her head back into the kitchen. 2 years married, and she still gave me butterflies. To her, I'm just a laid-back mechanic who works long-haul shifts for a lumber mill. Honest job, good pay, solid benefits. Truth is, I laundered a few $100,000 out of a dormant shell account and bought us a quiet house with a wraparound porch and a workshop out back. That shop looks like a normal garage, classic car parts, grease stains, the works, but below it, a sealed bunker, full server rack, air-gapped systems, surveillance nodes, redundant backups. I could take down a corporation from that room and still be home in time for pot roast. I quit hunting cartels, too risky, but I never stopped sharpening my skills, kept the tools clean, kept the instincts sharp. Linda doesn't ask questions. She doesn't snoop. She's got no idea who I really am. As far as she's concerned, I'm just some blue-collar guy who thinks Google is a form of black magic. Why lie? Because the truth would put her in danger, because the people I crossed don't forget. If they ever find me again, and one day they might, she has to be untouchable. So I keep my mouth shut, keep my head down, smile when she teases me about being a digital caveman. But when I close that bunker door and the lights flicker on, the ghost still lives. He's just sleeping. Let me tell you about Linda. She's not just beautiful. She's the kind of woman who makes you forget every other face you've ever seen. I know. Everyone says that about their partner. But I'm not blowing smoke. I've seen beauty, and I've seen Linda, and they are not the same thing. Nah, I'll admit, if you ask 10 people off the street, maybe 7 would say she's pretty, maybe 8 if she's dressed up. But to me, she's perfect. Not just because of the way she looks, but because of the way she moves, the way she laughs, the way she lights up a room without trying. She's 5'6", copper bronze hair that flows like it's got a rhythm of its own, wavy, soft, smells like vanilla and sunshine, and hits her mid-back. Her eyes, deep green, like a forest that's hiding secrets. She's got this body that curves just right, full in the chest, slim in the waist, soft, smooth stomach, and hips that just fit in your hands. Her legs, long, tan, toned from morning jogs, she swears she hates but never skips. Her smile's got this little dimple on one side, and when she laughs for real, like the throw her head back kind, you'd swear angels were jealous. She's not fake pretty. She's not Instagram pretty, she's real pretty. The kind that hits different when she's in sweatpants and no makeup, dancing barefoot while cooking pasta, and humming to an old Billie Eilish track. We met on a Wednesday afternoon, real casual. She walked into the sawmill where I worked, looking a little lost, clutching a scribbled note with board measurements. Said she just moved into a new apartment and wanted to put up some shelves herself. Need some help? I asked, leaning on the counter. She smiled like she was too stubborn to say yes, but she did. I'm not great with tools, she admitted, a little embarrassed. I laughed. No shame in that. Half the guys around here fake it anyway. Tell you what, if you buy the beer and make me dinner, I'll come by and put them up for you. She tilted her head like she was sizing me up. Deal, but I'm not promising gourmet. Dinner turned into dancing. She put on a Marvin Gaye record, yes, vinyl, and we slow danced in the middle of her living room, floor still littered with unopened boxes. There was no hookup that night, just a hug. One sweet, nervous kiss on the cheek before I left. She didn't even know how hard I was trying to play it cool. Truth is, I was shaking on the inside. Back then, I had no idea what the hell I was doing with women. I'd been in Vegas maybe 6 months, and my romantic resume wasn't something I bragged about. Before her, only been with hookers 3 times, to be exact. First one was a girl I picked up off Fremont. We did it in my back seat. It was cold, mechanical. Felt like ordering a sandwich and not enjoying the bread. Second time I went to a brothel in Pyramp. She at least pretended to care. Asked me questions, gave me a real smile. The third time, I dropped real money, paid for the whole night, and told her to teach me. Like, really teach me. I didn't want to be clueless anymore. I didn't want to be that awkward, nervous kid fumbling around in the dark. Then Linda came into my life, and everything changed. She was the first woman who ever made me want to slow down. It took us 5 dates before we took things to the next level. I still remember it clear as day. Dinner at the Stratosphere, candlelight. Wine that cost more than my old laptop. We laughed, danced in some club on the strip, and somewhere between our third round and her resting her head on my chest, it just clicked. Back at my place, we didn't say a word. Clothes came off like gravity took over. She didn't ask questions. She didn't need to. She trusted me. And when we finally hit that bed, it wasn't wild. It wasn't loud. It was real. And when she curled up against me afterward, I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Peace. Apparently, that night's lessons from Pahrump paid off. And it didn't hurt that I'd been hitting the gym and playing ball with the guys from the mill. I wasn't skinny anymore. Had some weight on me, muscle, endurance, still 6'1", but now 220 with arms that filled out my flannel sleeves. I looked like a working man. Nobody would have guessed I used to spend 16 hours a day buried in code and caffeine. Another funny thing? I never thought much about my size, just figured I was average. The working girls used to say nice things, but hey, that's part of the gig, right? I didn't believe them. But with Linda, there was no faking. And when she gave me that look after the first time, that stunned, satisfied silence, yeah, I started to believe it. We dated for 6 solid months before I asked her to marry me. Another 6 months later, we were husband and wife, built a life that looked normal from the outside. She was an accountant for a national firm, pulling a nice salary. Between her job and mine, we were comfortable. Hell, we were better than comfortable. I never had to dip into my ghost accounts. Didn't need to. Nice cars, waterfront weekends on a rented pontoon, steak dinners, shows on the strip. It was good. It was simple. It was safe. Our bed life, solid. Usually 4 times a week, sometimes more. No kids meant no filters. Backyard, pool, kitchen, hell, even the laundry room once. We like to keep things interesting. She had this wild streak under that calm exterior, and I loved bringing it out. After work, I'd usually head out to my shop, my little man cave behind the house. Half the time, I'd work on a car. The other half, I'd boot up the system in my secret room below the floor. Did I still hack? Yeah, but nothing heavy. I wasn't stealing, wasn't breaching for profit. I was just practicing, running drills, testing firewalls, making sure the ghost didn't get rusty. I could have robbed banks, hijacked digital gold, rerouted entire crypto wallets. But I didn't. I stayed quiet, clean, off-grid. Linda thought I was just some laid-back gearhead who couldn't set up his own Wi-Fi. Babe, what's a PDF? Why's the router blinking like that? You fix it. You're smarter than me. She'd laugh, call me helpless, then swoop in to save the day. Every time she cracked a smile and rebooted something, I died a little inside. Because if she ever found out the truth, it'd crush her. Or worse, it'd put her in danger. Because behind the flannel and calloused hands, I was still one of the most hunted cyber operatives in the world. And then, things started changing. About 6 months ago, she got tense. Not dramatically. Just small stuff. A shift in tone, shorter conversations, less laughing. Zex dipped to maybe twice a week. She started coming home later. Shower, eat, straight to bed. Not cold, not angry, just tired. I asked her one night while she poked at her dinner. She sighed and rubbed her temple. We're working on landing a massive client, she said. I've been buried in spreadsheets, like 12-hour days. Seemed real enough. She started doing more happy hours with coworkers on Fridays. She always called, always told me where she was. I believed her. Mostly, I wasn't paranoid. But when you've spent years outsmarting people who eliminate for a living, you learn to notice the little things, patterns, changes, energy. Because even when life looks perfect, even when love feels solid, something can be slipping right under your nose. About 6 months in, I finally asked her something that had been sitting in the back of my head for a while. So, how long is this whole project supposed to drag on? I asked one night while we were eating dinner. I tried to keep it casual, like I wasn't really pressing for answers, but I was. I figured by now they either got the deal or lost it. Linda barely looked up from her plate. Another week or 2, tops, she said. Then things should calm down. She sounded tired, worn out. I chalked it up to the long hours she kept talking about. Still, something about it felt off. I figured she could use a little break, something to unwind. She'd been grinding for weeks, staying late at work and crashing hard when she got home. So that Wednesday night, I surprised her with a full-day spa package I booked for Saturday. Massages, facials, the works. When I handed her the envelope, her eyes lit up. She hugged me tight, kissed me harder than usual, and, well, One thing led to another. We ended up tangled in bed, giving each other the kind of pleasure that makes you forget the world for a while. But not everything can be solved with good sex. Saturday rolled around. She was out the door by 9 a.m. sharp, kissed me on the cheek, said she'd be back around 4. I nodded, smiled, sipped my coffee, and watched her drive off. After she left, I headed out to the shop like usual, planning to finish assembling the engine I had on the bench. But after about an hour of turning wrenches, something started nagging at me again. This whole big client thing had dragged on way too long. And call it gut instinct or just paranoia, but it didn't sit right. For months, I'd made it a hard rule. Never mess with her company. That was my line. No hacking, no poking around. You don't burn your own kitchen, right? But that morning, I broke my own rule. Just wanted to take a peek, I told myself. See what kind of company this huge client really was. Their security was basic, like laughably bad. I was in their network in less than 3 minutes. First stop, Linda's workstation. I thought maybe I'd find some project files, meeting notes, something that could make the story click. But when I searched for terms like client, the quote, proposal, nothing came up. That was weird, real weird. Then I started digging through her directories. And that's when I found a locked folder titled Photos for James. And just like that, the air in the room got heavy. I knew who James was. I'd seen him before. Some middle management slick talker who showed up at a few corporate events. Too smug, too polished. I never liked the guy, and now I was staring at a folder with his damn name on it. Linda thought she knew her way around a computer, but I had that folder open in seconds. And what I found inside, it knocked the wind out of me. Photos, dozens of them. Some were explicit selfies, others full-on sex shots, in her office, in what looked like a hotel room, even in someone else's bed. And they weren't just random hookups. There were pictures of her doing things she refused to do with me, stuff she flat out said she wasn't into. I just sat there staring, numb, disgusted, betrayed. It was like watching a slow-motion car crash you couldn't stop. Something broke in me. When the initial shock faded, the anger kicked in. I had a few hours before she'd be back, so I started digging harder. I opened her email next. What I found made everything worse. There were dozens of messages between her and James. Not just raunchy stuff, though yeah, plenty of that, but love notes, plans, lies, and timelines. Turns out they'd been sleeping together long before I ever entered the picture. A full year, maybe more. So why the hell did she start dating me? What was I to her? Some idiot she picked for stability? For cover? I kept reading. One email mentioned accounting irregularities involving big clients. Another talked about a shared offshore account. My blood ran cold. I jumped onto James's computer next. Found even more photos. Motel room snapshots. Her in lingerie. Her without clothes in another man's bedroom. This wasn't a fling. This was a whole second life. I copied everything. Her hard drive, James's, and all the folders tied to their department on the company's network. Dumped them onto a drive in my server system. I wasn't done yet. Out of habit, I pulled up the company's HR database. Curious. Maybe I was looking for dirt on James. But then I saw something that made me freeze. There was a folder with my name on it. I didn't open it. Not yet. I just sat there, staring. Couldn't decide if I was scared or furious. Before logging off, I installed surveillance tools on both their machines and the company server. Every file, email, keystroke, even webcam footage, they'd all redirect straight to my private terminal. I wasn't working on engines anymore. My focus had shifted. Linda got home from her spa day glowing. Said it was the best gift anyone had ever given her. She thanked me the only way she knew how, long, intense, and passionate. The kind of night most guys would eliminate for. And yeah, I let it happen. I hated her. But I wasn't going to lie to myself. She was still gorgeous. Still wild in bed. She could have been Lucifer in lace, and I still would have gone for it. She was Lucifer in lace. Next morning, I was up before her, quietly slipped into her phone and installed spyware while she slept. Nothing fancy, just enough to track texts, copy call logs, and keep tabs on her browser activity. I synced everything to a private hard drive. She left around 10 a.m., said she was going shopping with a friend. Girl day, she called it. Funny thing was, Find My Friends was disabled, but I had a workaround. I'd hacked into the onboard GPS in her car, tracked her in real time. She did go to the mall, like she said. That surprised me. honestly. I waited until I was sure she wouldn't be back soon, then grabbed her laptop. First thing I did was clone the whole drive, just like I'd done with the others. Installed a keylogger, enabled remote webcam access. Checked her browser history. That's when I found it, a second email account. Hidden, separate. She'd also visited the website of a bank in the Cayman Islands, multiple times. That was a red flag I'd dig into later. I was wiping oil off my hands and cleaning up when I heard the garage door roll open. Linda was home. We went through the motions, dinner, a movie on the couch, another warm, fake smile. She didn't have a clue I knew everything, that her entire world was about to burn. For the next week, I played the part. Loving husband, clueless tech dummy, all smiles and small talk. I kept my act tight. Every evening, I slipped out to the shop like I always did, pretending to be neck deep in engine work. But under the hood, I wasn't touching cars. I was neck deep in something else entirely. I was sorting through the mess of files, emails, data dumps, and spy logs I'd collected, sifting through it all like a forensic surgeon. Then Tuesday night hit, and something grabbed my attention. Buried in a string of messages between Linda and James, I spotted a little nugget that hit different. James warned her not to forget to delete the browser history on my laptop after she used it. My laptop? Why the hell was she even using it? Yeah, I'd set it up to automatically sync with my private servers the day I brought it home. But I never imagined I'd need to keep an eye on myself. So the next night, I started watching more closely. Midway through checking their usual workstations, a new stream of data started pouring in, and it wasn't from either of their office computers, it was from mine. I froze, minimized everything else, pushed the feed to my main monitor and brought up the webcam stream I had running in the background. And there she was, Linda, sitting at my desk, working on my machine. She had a Bluetooth earpiece in. The mic on the laptop picked up her voice perfectly, so I patched the audio through to a third monitor and launched a quick live decode on the call she was on. And I watched it unfold like a slow-motion car crash. She was following James' step-by-step instructions, transferring 50 grand from a dummy company account into an offshore bank in the Caymans. Using my laptop, my IP address, my name. When she finished, she wiped the browser history, cleared out the cache, closed all tabs, and logged off. I just sat there for a second. What the actual hell? I muttered. And then I remembered the personnel file I found earlier, the one with my name on it. I hadn't opened it yet, figured it was just background HR stuff, but now I had a feeling. I pulled it up. Turns out I'd been hired as a cybersecurity consultant by Linda's company. On paper, I worked under James. He was listed as my department head. There were forged pay stubs, contract agreements, and a record of wire transfers, each deposit sent to the same Cayman account Linda just tapped into. It hit me all at once. I wasn't just being played as a husband. I was being set up as the fall guy for a major corporate fraud operation. They used my laptop, my digital footprint, and my real name. And they started before I even met Linda. That wasn't coincidence. That was a setup from the jump. That's when it clicked. This wasn't just about betrayal. This was a full-blown operation. And I was the sucker they'd planned to pin it all on. Time to change gears. I needed to see how deep this rabbit hole went. When I finally cracked the offshore account's full access, I nearly choked. There wasn't just a few transfers. There was a fat stack. Almost 10 million sitting in there, all neatly disguised and scrubbed. They started funneling money about 6 months after our wedding. Real subtle. Just enough movement to stay under radar, but steady enough to build up fast. Worse, I found signs they'd gone back through the logs and tried to muddy the waters, falsifying which machine initiated the transfers. But all signs still pointed back to me. I dug deeper into my personnel file and, yeah, it was loaded with red flags, fake certs, inconsistent records. It was like someone was making sure that if the scam blew up, I'd be the one tied to the dynamite. I sat back and exhaled slowly. I wasn't just collateral damage, I was the designated patsy. So now the question was, what the hell do I do about it? Funny thing is, it wasn't even that hard to act normal around Linda. She had no idea. Kept smiling at me like nothing was wrong. She still wanted me, still seduced me. And yeah, I went along with it. I mean, come on, she was still fine as hell. We'd hook up. I'd pretend it was just another night. And the whole time, in the back of my head, I was already planning how to tear her world apart. That Saturday, I sat down with her emails again, this time from the very start of our relationship. That's when the real knife twisted. They picked me intentionally. From day one, I was the mark. Linda had told James I was cute enough and Zex with me wouldn't be a chore, but she worried I was kind of dense when it came to tech. James thought that was perfect. "The dumber he seems," he wrote, "the easier this'll be to pull off." I wasn't dumb, I was disguised. Now it was my turn. First move, I opened a couple new bank accounts and untraceable names. Then I booted up the botnet I'd been building in the background for years. Most of it was going to be a smokescreen, but one section, a small group of traceable bots, was going to lead breadcrumbs back to a few very specific places, just enough to bait the right kind of people, but hard enough that only the best could trace it. While that ran, I scrubbed every trace of my digital identity off Linda's company servers, deleted the HR file, torched every log tied to my IP address, then I planted a few alternate entries that pointed to someone else entirely. Next, I corrupted all the file transfers made from my laptop to mask the origin. I released a custom virus, brutal, aggressive, scorched earth code straight into my laptop. It melted the OS, shredded the memory, and triggered a meltdown that disconnected it from my private server forever. That night, I sat down at the desk like nothing had happened. "Damn," I muttered, tapping the dead keyboard. The screen flickered, then crashed completely. Linda walked over. "Everything okay?" "Freaking spam virus," I grunted. "Whole system's toast." I saw it, the flicker of panic behind her smile. She tried to cover it up, but it was there. And she was already wondering how they were going to finish the job without my computer. The next morning, I intercepted a new message between her and James. They were almost at the finish line. 2 more transfers, and they'd clear another 10 mil. That was the big one, the final string. And then came the kicker, the plan. Once the last transfer was done, Linda was going to discover the theft and blow the whistle. She'd volunteer to lead the internal investigation. James, of course, would take point on the technical side, and all the forensic breadcrumbs, every single one led to me. The clueless husband, the idiot who couldn't open a PDF. They had it all planned out. Linda would file for divorce. I'd be arrested, prosecuted, probably thrown in prison for a decade. And a year later, she'd marry James. Yeah, there might be some suspicion, but she'd spin it like she was just the woman who uncovered the crime and tried to do the right thing. That I'd hidden my hacker background from her. That she'd been duped, too. They even laughed about it. I watched the messages in real time as they mocked me. James said I'd be completely lost, totally confused during the investigation. Linda replied, "He still thinks I believe he barely knows how to use Google." Then she added, "I'll just buy him a new laptop next week. We can finish the last 2 transfers after that." That was it. That was the deadline. I had 3 weeks. 3 weeks to end the game and take everything from them. Monday morning, I walked into work and told my boss flat out, "I need a week off. Got some personal stuff to handle." He barely blinked. "No problem. You got the time banked." Perfect. The second I walked out of there, I went hunting. I wasn't looking for just any lawyer. I needed a shark. The kind who eats hearts for breakfast and wipes the floor with whoever's on the other side. Someone cold, brutal, and tactical. Took me an hour to find the one I wanted, and I locked in a consultation for Tuesday. They thought they had 3 weeks to finish their little con. Hell, they were lucky if they were going to get through 2. I got home, fired up the system, and got to work. Logged into James's home computer first. Rookie mistake on his part. He left the whole machine running, just turned off the monitor. You'd think the head of IT would know better. Guess not. I funneled my access through a server in Belarus just for fun. Wouldn't matter in the end. Every trace of that connection would vanish the moment I closed the session. If anyone tried to backtrack it, the trail would stop cold at a coffee shop in Minsk. Funny how much you learn from working around real criminals. The cartel I infiltrated 5 years ago had shown me the ropes. They changed logins like most people change socks. But their banks? They kept those consistent. Their downfall was always the same, reusing patterns and trusting devices. Millionaires leave more clues than you would expect when they fall for phishing emails that promise exotic toys or investment opportunities. I wasn't going after James just yet. First, I had to bring Linda down. But trust me, he wasn't getting out of this alive, one way or another. That night, I slipped back into character, Mr. Chill, Mr. Grease Monkey. Told her I was heading out to the shop to work on the Nova. In reality, I was prepping. Linda had gone to Walmart that afternoon to grab me a brand new laptop. Cute. She thought she was setting the stage for the next setup. Too bad I had other plans. Thing was, if she wasn't home when the computer got used, she could try to claim she had an alibi. I couldn't let her have that kind of wiggle room. I needed her present during the action, no excuses. She texted me when she got back. "Hey babe, got your laptop. Gonna get it all set up, it'll take like an hour." I texted back, "Appreciate it," and glanced at the time. Showtime. First thing I did was sever the digital link between her and James. I hated her guts, but I wasn't heartless. I wasn't going to let her get handed over to people who play with knives for fun. James, though, he was fair game. I rerouted Linda's new laptop to a separate, isolated connection. No diversions, no proxy hops, clean direct access to her company's system. Then I moved $20 million from their internal accounts into 4 offshore holdings, all in her name. I even booked her a one-way flight to the Cayman Islands. Departure Thursday morning. First class. Real fancy. After that, I got surgical. I deleted James's contact info from her device, erased their entire email chain, wiped browser history, and stripped out every trace of my own spyware. I wasn't leaving anything that could come back on me. Not on her machine. To finish it off, I shredded the link between her laptop and my private server. Then I took down the house Wi-Fi and left her with no signal. She didn't know I had my own dedicated router hidden in the shop with a fiber drop that didn't touch the rest of the house. Not 5 minutes later, a message popped up from her phone's tracker. "Laptop's ready, but the internet just dropped. Weird timing, LOL." She was trying to log in to do another transfer, but the whole operation froze. While she and James texted in a panic, trying to figure out what happened, I silently emptied their main stash, every dollar they'd skimmed, into new accounts, all tagged under her alias. Once the original was clean, I closed it down. Last step, wiped her phone clean of spyware. Not because I was being nice, because I didn't know who would be handling that phone after this. If it landed in the wrong hands, it couldn't lead back to me. Then I turned off the monitors, washed up, and headed inside like nothing happened. That night at dinner, Linda looked twitchy, trying to hide it with small talk and forced smiles. "Your new computer's all ready," she said quickly. "But, yeah, internet's still acting up." I gave a little shrug. "Not a big deal. I don't need email tonight." She had no clue how little I actually needed the internet. We settled on the couch for a movie, but I could tell she wasn't paying attention. She kept glancing at her phone, texting constantly, checking something, probably trying to access the now-dead account. She was unraveling, and it showed. I smiled to myself as I went to bed. No Zex that night, not that I wanted any. Next morning, I left early. She was still asleep when I slipped out. I wasn't doing anything important, just needed to kill time before my meeting with the attorney. But yeah, I couldn't stop wondering how her morning was going. I didn't think I'd have to wait long to find out. Later that day, I stepped into a law office that looked straight out of a Netflix legal drama, glass walls, city views, minimalistic furniture that probably cost more than my truck. Then she walked in. You know that moment in courtroom shows where a lawyer appears and the whole room goes silent? That was her. 5'6", polished suit, heels that could kill, hair like she walked out of a Vogue shoot, and curves that stopped time. 2 minutes into our meeting, I knew she was exactly what I needed. A legal butcher in lipstick. Once she locked the door and confirmed everything was off the record, I leaned forward and gave her the short version. "My wife's been cheating on me since before we got married," I said. "And she's been embezzling money from her company with her boyfriend. They're framing me for it." Her eyebrow arched. "That's a hell of an accusation. What makes you so sure?" I gave a little smile. "My laptop was acting up, so I used hers. Found a folder I wasn't supposed to see. Pictures, emails, the works. Technically not a lie, just edited for simplicity. Emails back it up," I added. "I just want to get out before this whole thing blows up in my face." She didn't even flinch. "Good. I'll take the case. I can have her served by Friday." I raised a hand. "Not yet. I've got a move or two left to make. I'll tell you when it's time." She nodded, professional and sharp. "Just say the word." Back home, I flipped the breaker to bring my private Wi-Fi back online and reconnected to my system. Spyware at her office was still working beautifully, and sure enough, all hell had broken loose. The game was officially on. The day started off loud. Word hit fast. $20 million had vanished overnight, and the office was in full-blown panic mode. Emergency meeting, security alerts, internal fire alarms ringing off the hook. Every system was being combed. And me? I was 3 steps ahead, sitting in my shop sipping coffee. Already logged into James's phone, he was scrambling, following the trail, trying to piece together what happened. Poor fool traced the movement of the money straight to Linda, right to the woman he thought was his partner in crime, maybe even in love. That's when he realized their Cayman account had been completely emptied. Not a dime left, just a hollow digital shell, no warning, no explanation, just gone. I could feel the shift through the messages, accusations flew, paranoia kicked in. Then, like clockwork, Linda's phone dinged with a new email notification. She'd been summoned to a private meeting. CEO, CFO, head of security. "Oh, this should be good," I said out loud, grinning. That's when I heard it, multiple vehicles rolling up my driveway. I shut down everything fast, locked the servers, closed the hidden wall behind the command room. Within 30 seconds, it was like that secret space didn't exist. I stepped out into the main garage, wiped a bit of grease across my arms and under my fingernails, just enough to look like I'd been wrestling with an engine block all morning. And then I saw them. A fleet of police cruisers backed by a few big black Suburbans. Cops in uniform and suits with FBI jackets. Full-blown Fed raid. Well, damn, they don't waste time. I didn't flinch. "Morning," I said, real casual, as I opened the garage door. They shoved warrants in my face, but I barely glanced at them. "Yeah, no problem," I nodded. "Come on in. Whatever you need." I played it smooth, helpful even. "That's my wife's computer over there," I said, pointing casually. "Mine's that one, but honestly, I just got it yesterday and the Wi-Fi's been acting weird." I even threw in a helpless shrug. "I'm not really a tech guy. You could ask my wife, or pretty much anyone we know." They ate it up. They hauled me in for questioning, of course. I expected that. I was the husband, and this kind of mess doesn't happen without some suspicion rubbing off. But I stuck to the script. Just a regular guy, drives trucks, turns wrenches, has no idea what his wife really does for a living. "She's an accountant," I told them. "I think she handles clients and contracts and stuff. I don't ask too many questions." When they asked about the one-way ticket booked in her name, I gave them the best confused husband face I could manage. "A ticket? Really? Why would she go anywhere without telling me?" I stayed cool. They searched the shop, top to bottom, but never found the hidden server room. Eventually, they let me go. While I was in holding, they'd arrested Linda, handcuffed, booked, the works. James was dragged in not long after, but he got flipped fast, pressured into testifying against her and helping the feds recover the stolen cash. What really stung him, though, was discovering she'd cut him out, that she'd rerouted the entire fortune into her own accounts and planned to vanish without him. Ouch. I knew they'd bring me in for questioning. That part was always expected. That's why I'd set up everything so neatly. And I knew what would happen next. Linda would call me. Her loving husband. Her one lifeline. So I played my role. I got her a lawyer, but not just any lawyer. I did my homework beforehand, dug into every defense attorney in town, who had the best conviction to dismissal ratio, who had the pull with judges, and then I chose someone just average. Not incompetent, but not exactly a courtroom assassin either. Let her get convicted. Let her serve every damn day. The bonus? It was a federal case. No parole, no reduced time for good behavior. 20 years meant 20 years. Period. I even showed up to her bail hearing, pretending to be the supportive spouse. Offered the house as collateral. She was labeled a flight risk, so they strapped an ankle monitor on her. She came home looking like a zombie, broken, overwhelmed. Good. She was too dazed to ask for anything, too worn out to even try seducing me like before. Her phone had been seized, so I went out and bought her a new one. Before handing it over, I laced it with fresh spyware, set to track every message, call, and GPS ping. She messaged James once. His response came back cold. "I'm not allowed to contact you. I'm testifying." And that was it. He blocked her. That had to hurt. She turned down a plea deal, thinking she could win at trial, kept saying she'd been framed. In a weird way, she was right. She didn't do all of it. She didn't create the shell accounts, didn't set up the transfers, didn't erase the records. She didn't book the ticket, but the digital trail? Oh, it all led to her. And it was airtight, the trial was a circus, and I had front row seats. Watching James take the stand, struggling to look her in the eye, knowing he was selling her out, priceless. You could see the moment her heart cracked, the way she looked at him. Betrayal, hate, disbelief. And then came the verdict. Guilty. 20 years, no chance of parole. Once that chapter was closed, it was time to tie up the last loose end. James. Oh, I had something special planned for him, but he'd never see it coming. I couldn't let him trace it back to me, not even a whisper of suspicion. I called my lawyer, updated the divorce paperwork to reflect Linda's conviction. The new filing landed on her doorstep 2 days later. Meanwhile, I got busy with a different kind of setup. Opened several accounts overseas, Geneva, the Caymans, each one subtly linked to James. Then I slipped into the underbelly of the internet and left a breadcrumb trail, just enough to nudge attention his way. Then came the finale. I launched my botnet, a beast I hadn't used in years, and hit a bank server. Not just any bank, the one tied to the fake accounts I'd made for him. I broke in, redirected the funds, millions, into the accounts under his name, all while spoofing the source IP to mimic his own system. Once the transfer was complete, I nuked the bridge, scrubbed all traces, killed all links, burned every log. And then I just sat back and watched the dark web light up like Christmas. The ghost was back. I didn't expect fireworks right away. But the next morning, another bank got hit. 4 more accounts drained clean. Just like that, another $20 million was sitting in James's name. That's when the noise started. People began sniffing around again. Not the cops. Them. The old faces from the digital underground. The ones who'd been waiting years for Ghost to slip. I was off the radar, but Ghost? Ghost had resurfaced, and the forums lit up like Vegas on payday. There was one crew in particular. They'd been watching me ever since I disappeared. Now they smelled blood. They were hungry. They wanted a body. It was time to wrap this up. I jumped back into the bank's network, slid past James's system like it wasn't even there, and yanked all $20 million out of his accounts. Shifted the funds into a private vault I had tucked away in a Swiss bank, clean as bleach. Every log, wiped. Every trace, gone. I didn't care if the cartel ever figured it out. They weren't getting that money back. Then, just for fun, I logged into James's machine one last time. This time I hit them with a little surprise. I moved a smaller amount, $2 million, into a dummy account I'd rigged with a tracker so precise it made the NSA look outdated. But this transfer? It wasn't scrubbed. This one left a trail, wide open, blinking like a neon sign. That money was bait. The point wasn't the cash, it was the tracker. I wanted eyes on it. I wanted it found. Last time I dodged prison because I understood how the beacon worked. I knew what to look for, what to kill before it spread. James? He didn't have a clue. I imagined the moment. Agents sitting across from him in a cold room, dropping the question. So, where's the money? And him, staring, confused, blindsided. He wouldn't even know which money they were talking about. I laughed to myself. Then I severed all connections to his system, nuked the links, wiped the data. It was like I'd never touched it. A week later, I started breaking everything down. The secret computer room? Gone. I gutted it and turned it into a boring old storage space. Just boxes, shelves, and dust. I'd already filed the paperwork to close the sale on a piece of land in Montana. Nice and quiet, middle of nowhere. The deal was done under a shell company, buried behind layers of corporate noise. My name never touched the records. I was sipping coffee and reviewing the final forms when I caught a headline in the local news feed. Missing person, James Hallwell, hadn't shown up to work in a couple days. Didn't call, didn't text. His car turned up in some mall parking lot across town, keys still in the ignition. But him? Gone. No phone, no credit card activity, no camera footage, no James. I leaned back in my chair, took another slow sip of coffee, and smirked. Huh, I murmured. Wonder where he ran off to. Maybe he got scared and skipped town. Maybe someone found him first. Maybe he figured out too late who he was really messing with. Doesn't matter now. I had packing to finish. Montana was calling. I screamed when they shot me with the cattle prod again, my whole body jolting. I swear I had no clue what they were talking about. They kept calling me a liar, told me I messed up, big time. The tracking software led them straight to my computer, they said. They told me they found all the data there. They'd already recovered $2 million from the last hack, but now they wanted more. $20 million from a recent job, plus $30 million from 5 years ago. They didn't beat around the bush. Either I gave them what they wanted, or they'd make it quick. If I kept playing dumb, they warned me it would get a lot worse, but I had no idea. Honestly, they grabbed me right as I was about to hop in my car at the mall, felt a sharp sting in my neck like a needle. After that, I was out cold. I woke up hours later, strapped into a seat on some private jet, not knowing where I was. That's when the questioning started. They kept calling me Ghost like it meant something. They were on me about money they said I'd stolen. $20 million they just found, plus $30 million from years ago. I had nothing to give them, no clue what they were talking about. I told them I didn't know anything, but they weren't buying it. Everything went south when they showed me the proof. Screenshots, logs, files, all pulled from my personal computer. I lost it. Right then, I realized I had two choices: spill whatever they wanted and get a quick end, or keep my mouth shut and face whatever the hell they had planned next. That's when it clicked. I had nothing to offer. I was totally in the dark about all of it. Now I'm hanging up in some dark underground bunker, probably deep in the Colombian jungle. I'm stripped down, legs wide, and they're using that damn cattle prod on me again. It's been 3 days. First day, they knocked me for not talking. Second day, they brought out a whip. Now, it's back to the cattle prod, aimed at the worst places. I really wish I had something, anything to tell them, because right now, I can't even imagine what they're going to do tomorrow, or the day after that, or the day after that. Moving day. It's been over a month since James dropped off the map. Yesterday, they found his body in Colombia, tortured, dumped like a piece of trash. And by the end of today, Mark's going to disappear too. I've got a new identity lined up, but there's one last stop before I can fully vanish. All my stuff's already packed up and shipped ahead to a storage unit in Denver, paid for through a shady offshore account. I'm ready to walk into my new life. Then they bring Linda in, wrists shackled to the table in front of me. She looks like she's been through hell. Pale skin, hair all messed up, no makeup. The orange jumpsuit's doing her no favors. "So, how you holding up?" I asked, keeping my tone cold, no emotion. "Mark, please. You have to help me. I didn't do what they're saying," she begged, voice cracking. I just sighed, keeping my face blank. "I can't help you, Linda. We're getting a divorce. That's done." "Please, Mark, I didn't do it. I don't want a divorce." She was practically pleading, looking desperate as hell. I leaned in a little, calm as ever. "Sign the damn papers. This is over. Just end it." "Mark, just talk to James. He can help me. He's always been there for me. He was my friend. Please, just talk to him." I raised an eyebrow. "Have you heard from James?" She shook her head, voice soft. "No. I kept waiting for him to come visit, but he never did." "Well, don't bother waiting anymore," I said, almost enjoying the moment. "He's dead. Found him in Colombia." Linda's face went white, like all the blood's drained from it. "I'm guessing the authorities think he stole money from a cartel." No, he couldn't have done that," she whispered, clearly in shock. "I'm sure he didn't know what he was getting into, but they think he was part of it." I leaned forward, making sure she caught every word. "Look, Linda, just sign the damn papers and get this over with." "You're leaving me with nothing!" Her voice cracked, tears welling up. "You don't need anything here!" I snapped. "You're going to be in prison for the next 20 years. Enjoy the stay." "Mark, please, you can't just leave me here. You can't," she said, practically choking on her own words. "I can't stay here. I need your help. Please." I took a long breath and just looked at her for a second. "All right, listen up. Let me tell you a story, Linda. Maybe this will help you understand where you're at." She looked at me, unsure, but she was listening now. I leaned back in my chair, and I started. 5 years ago, there was this hacker, a real genius, actually. They called him Ghost. He was good, damn good. The kind of hacker who could break into any system and leave no trace. It was like a ghost had done it. He decided one day he was going after the cartels. Personal reasons, you could say. So he drained 30 million from them. Linda's eyes stayed fixed on me, wide-eyed. The cartels weren't stupid. They hired some of the best hackers to find him. But Ghost was ahead of them. He disappeared. No one could find him. He built a new life, stopped the big hacking, just kept doing minor stuff to stay sharp. No one knew who he was, not even his wife. I let that sink in, watching her face. He got married, trusted her, loved her, thought she was the one. I paused for a second, then hit her with the punchline. 3 years into the marriage, Ghost finds out she's been lying the whole time. She's been cheating on him with some other guy. The whole thing was a setup. She and her boyfriend used him, framed him for embezzlement. They planned to make him the fall guy while they ran off with everything. Linda's mouth fell open, her face losing all color. "So Ghost did what he does best," I said, getting into it now. "He hacked everything. Phones, computers, work files, the whole damn thing. He made sure the blame went straight to her. But then he did something else. He got her boyfriend to believe she was cheating on him too. The final move He made the guy testify against her, ruined both of them the way they ruined him. She's shaking now, her voice almost a whisper. You! Yeah, I said, nodding. But there's more. See, Ghost wasn't done. His wife went to prison, but he wasn't about to leave it like that. The cartel was still hunting him. So Ghost used the boyfriend's computer to hack the cartel again, stole millions from them, left a little trail just visible enough to get their attention. They traced it back to him. I paused, letting the silence sit for a second, before I hit her with the final part. The authorities think he was tortured for over a month before they eliminated him. Linda couldn't speak. She was trembling now, staring at me like I had just ripped her world apart. I gave her a cold smile. But hey, none of this is real, Linda, just a story, completely made up. Fiction, right? Totally impossible, not even a hint of truth in it. I leaned in and looked her dead in the eye. But there is a little bit of truth in it. You didn't do exactly what they say, but you're not innocent either, not even close. So just sign the papers and let's get this over with. You don't want to be known as a prison rat, do you? Her face turned bright red with rage. She lunged across the table, trying to reach me. You fool! She screamed, but the guards didn't even flinch. They yanked her back, keeping her just out of reach with the cuffs. I stood up, turned around, and headed for the door. See you around, Linda. She's still screaming as they drag her back to her cell, but I don't stick around to listen. I've done my part. I picked up a cheap disposable car and drove out to the mall, parked it, locked it up, and left Mark sitting behind the wheel, clueless. On the other side of the parking lot, my real ride was waiting for me. I slid into the driver's seat, the new identity tucked in my pocket, and rolled out, free at last.